Monday, January 17th, 2022. I'm in a place in New York where somebody put and marked the calendar for, I don't know, I hear what they say. I've stayed away from the teleportation machine today. I know enough of their version and rendition of just how wonderful the non-familiar are, and how they boast of themselves and their accomplishments, while psychologically changing the message and making it more difficult for some of us to prosper or even live within reason. I sit today on a mat. My Alexa has turned yellow, usually indicative of some form of listening at some point. That's what I'm assuming it means, because Linda said it's a message. I'm like, what, a message that doesn't speak to me, just that I speak, and it has some blanket, which I'm alright with. It's not like I'm speaking of anything between me and my son. And this is where the unity flag is that still flies. Lewis suggested, since I don't know how to, it reminds me of being in second grade, and being introduced to the library for the first time at school, and sitting on the mat in the school, and they said, okay, well, now it's free time. They read a book. They read one that they picked out, the librarians. And then the librarians said, all right, children, now it is your time to go, free time, to go pick out a book on anything that might interest you, or to pick out your own book. So I had to go up to the teacher and I said, excuse me. I said, I don't really, you just walk up to the shelf and pull one off, or, and then it opened up a conversation of, how does one know what book to look for within the library setting? It was the same query that I have, or the same inquisition I have for the online thing with the internet. What do you even look for in, I don't know. So I have the same problem with the television. That's why it's usually I stay in short range, and then it's whatever is meant to be processed or positioned is what I filter at the moment. It's, I don't know. I'm not in programming. I'm not part of the TV network, different whatever. So Lewis said he found something called The Family, which, again, that's an umbrella term for me in English anyway. They use Linda, Lou, and myself as a family. Then they use the word for myself and my 4 children that I, whatever, as a family in units of some sort. But that opens a whole Pandora's box of problems based on other family arguments at the moment. This is not how I wanted my family value to be stacked, ever. I was on course, and my concourse was set and perfect back in the whatever, when things were working correctly in my area. And then they were working until they weren't. Until someone in a greater extension family, for one reason or another, pulled my life course off. And then, whether I mean, purposely, intentfully to harm by shaming and so on and so forth, and mismarriage and miscoupling and forcing children in the most disgusting derangement. But let's just back up for a second. It's a series. The first one mentions something called a National Prayer Breakfast, which I had never heard of. As I'm watching it, though, there is a similarity between a business trip I had gone on through the real estate company. Wasn't in charge of picking location. It was a Canadian company with United States affiliations for franchising a real estate sales office, which again, then whatever, in whatever, in legitimate operations. And so they made the 2013 conference down in Washington, D.C. The year before, I believe, was out west. But when they moved it closer, it was also the same year that the company did the smart car, SMARTCAR. A funny looking little car, looks like a golf cart, but very heavy and sturdy. My business partner at the time, well, that's what I called him. I really don't know the human words that are appropriate. Again, I don't know how to find a representative from Norway to speak on family matters, since that's the reference they made for whatever in whatever. Again, whoever made the documentary said that was an appropriate connection to speak as one level of consciousness. So I don't want to overstep toes or whatever, but it's just the sound and the word that was made. They said that the whatever was a fellowship of with Jesus. Later, there's a Christ message, but I know that I'm not supposed to speak of religion or politics, which I don't normally. But in I don't know, you say emergency situation, I don't even know at this point. Kind of frightening. So then in 2013, with the smart car, I drove all the way down to Washington, D.C. I have a cousin who works there. I set up, I asked if she would meet me for dinner. I thought that was nice. I never get to see her, especially alone. So we set up a dinner, whatever, nothing special or fancy. And then one of the days that I was there, I believe I received an award for my sales in the local Long Island area for housing. There was something called, I believe there was that was the first time I'd ever heard of it. I'm like, National Prayer Breakfast. I was like, now, is that part of the conference I'm here for? Because I was looking for where to go in the big hotel schematic, because it's a conference center. It's confusing, but the escalators look similar to where I had been. But again, I had never heard of this National Prayer Breakfast ever. Then they said it was Christian. I said, actually, that would be very interesting. I would actually like to attend. I said, but I'm actually committed to another event. Is it at the same time? Again, I inquired about it because I truly was interested. I just had no idea. Now that I've seen this documentary, it's the year 2022, and it was 2013, I believe, was the conference in Washington, D.C. Which I went by myself. I drove the smart car by myself. And so I don't know how that, what that was all about. Again, for me, it's like a wiffle ball. I'm in the middle, and I've got big holes in the wiffle ball that I've kind of got my fingers stuck in, and I'm just clutching it to like. I am really confused as to how I got to this position at age 43 with, like, almost, if it was a blank canvas at first. I don't know how all the forest or the trees were painted in this portrait to land me in this situation, having to do whatever this is on a device in order to communicate in some fashion, because I don't. Then that was the first one with which left me with a okay feeling. Because for me it was just a, oh no, that's interesting, because that hotel looks like the one I was down in Washington, but I don't know. Again, never heard of it. Didn't know what was involved in the National Prayer Breakfast. It's not something that's widely televised. It's not spoken of on the radio, the FM radio stations that I'm aware of, or at least in my life frame, it's not. And then there was, it went into the second one. And then I had to stop the series before I went to the third one, because it was a lot, and it was very heavy in weight, and I really just wanted to digest it, because by the second episode, I became frightened. The implications, or the extent and the power and the weight of such a monumental responsibility or power of these group that seems at one point to have been in a tame fashion, but has been entertained into some, over a time dilation span into almost, britches comes to like a expanded the belt a little too big for your britches is a saying that because now I'm looking from a different side of the glass. And then they had some woman who carried a gun arrested. That scared me. They said something about a scapegoat. I'm like, wow, that's using your power but I don't know the whole story of her. So again, but it just, in the hypothetical and the theoretical and the slowed down scale of thinking of it, again, I have my personal whatever, which I'm not going to go into, but I'm just acknowledging at a very surface level that I was there. Tia Frio, at the time in 2013, I left the children with my mother. I made sure that I had a sitter, and my mother replaced my position in the house, so my children were not left alone. My mother always took my place if I had to leave for even a moment, with the assist of a babysitter, whatever I was using I made sure I still had set for my mom. Um, and that's where 2010 to April 1975 walked in, and it's been a tale. I just can't close the and get out. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, like, again, don't know how to act. I don't. This is not family values. This is not, he did not bring anything of value to the conversation other than taking from my reputation, and it was really difficult to try to manage raising three children at arm's length, protected in one area, and having to deal with the circus of the coming and the goings and the not knowing and the fighting and the and curse words being introduced to the house along with us. It's like, and loss of partial control. It was really difficult and not fair to whatever. Especially being that, I mean, even though family values had been disrupted past my comfort area, trying to just maintain the best I can and rebuild quietly without the children being dishonored was one, and then it is a difficult storm to maneuver by oneself, and not one that I think I should have been thrust into. This is unfair and unjust, but here we are. So, anything else on that? So I have not watched the third episode as of this memo or voice part of my medical journal, because at the same time, the the situation that I have going on here is something which I'm sure at some length is intertwined with whatever this. They mentioned some key op words. I mean, again, I don't know, like, how, which words to mention, which words not to mention. I mean, it gets so confusing being here, and then putting these puzzle pieces or these Ruzel pieces together at a three-dimensional, like, visionary, it is just like one big steamroll, I feel. I, so I don't believe I did not make it to the other piece of the conference that was going on at the same time. Also, I wouldn't have known what I was walking into if I'd walked into the room. I don't know if I would be a disruption now that I saw a piece of it. It seems like they have their plate full with a lot of different things. We'll just say, for lack of a better word. And I don't want to be a disruptor. I don't want to be an interrupter. I don't want to cause undue attention to myself. But I don't know how to get where I need to go with my children for future with this larger circumference and then dilation circumference, almost like a Doppler. My, my son today, he put on the whatever manufacturer they used for the Intrepid sales office of the almost like, I guess, airplane mechanics jumpsuit. I think that's, I mean, like, I don't really know aviation. I've never really been to an airfield and, taught that level of vocabulary or vernacular. So, being landlocked, so he had a patch and then a flag, and he was able to zipper it up. He has a thin body type, just as I did, just as Linda did, because I know there's also biological germ warfare going on, and expansion tissues that are being injected into subjects that don't know that they're being injected into with this biological engineer of some sort, and then they use whatever to statically almost by like electrolysis to plump up the tissues and cells and dilate the cells and make one have this bloated appearance, which is just a disgusting against human. I mean, it's I really this level of medical that they're getting away with in order to fatten certain women, whether it's bees, whether it's to make them unattractive, whether it's for them to be disqualified for something, whatever it is absolutely unacceptable. It just is. I don't know how you could treat any human and inject them with somebody else's cellular material in order to cause a biological second system, but on the interior change, and then hit them with all sorts of electrolysis of sorts to change the inner chemistry to then cause harm. But here it is being done. I don't know by whom, unbeknownst to me, and at my behest. And I don't know how to avoid, because they've hit me. Not only they make it seem like it was you asked for it because you went to the doctor, but in their local societal laws that they've written in New York area, you have to be vaccinated in order to get into education system of or program of some sort. This then has a devastating effect, honestly. And I'm pretty sure somewhere in the world outside of New York, it goes against rules and regulations set by an even higher authority. But again, this gets very confusing at germination, and then other things. And I don't speak German. I wish I did. I would have loved to have learned. Same thing with Russian and Greek. But those are not options available to me in the New York area for whatever reason. But here we are. So it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It is Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.